Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat ass you started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Hello, this is Tyler Yonke. I hope everyone can hear us out there. Yeah, we got a little bit of sound going. Hey, what's up now? Came in the chat. This is impromptu. I went for a bike ride, did some work around the house, and I just thought I would do this real quick because some things came to my mind. Well, start off here. Tyler Yonke, LPR. Welcome, everybody. Last night's episode 229, I was about an hour in. I just had a few minutes left of stuff, and the internet went out, and it just it crashed everything out. It looks like I'm getting some dropped frames here for my bit rate's fine, everything. So I don't know. Hopefully everything's going to come across and we're going to be fine. So if it's too much, I mean, I'm looking here and it looks a little choppy. So maybe that's going to be a problem. Maybe it's going to be a problem. But let's try to get it up here. I'll end up rebooting all this later. I think the chat's coming in. So what I didn't get to last night was a few additional things about Pam Bondi. I'm sorry, Jason Whitlock, Jeremy Boring, and a few of those things. So I'm going to go over a little bit of that. But first I thought we would, because I started doing a kind of a dive here. That chat's not working. A dive here about Pam Bondi. And sound is going in and out a little. Yeah, so, okay. It looks like I'm dropping a lot of frames. It says 21%. So maybe we'll cut this if that's the case. Maybe we'll just cut this and come back. How's that? Should we do that? Let's do that. Hey, what's up now? Look for a new stream. Feed seems time right now. Okay, well, maybe we'll find. By the way, go to the Rumble site. Have that link ready to go. Twitter. Those two seem to be more congruent last night. The Xing out on YouTube was not so great. So the frames are getting a little better. Let me reset this here. Maybe it was just started in the beginning. Looks like we're doing a little bit better on the bit. Okay, so I'm starting to do Pam Bondi, and I just did a cursory review of horror. And by the way, I'm going next week on Alan Mosley's show. So I don't know if what we're going to talk about, maybe some Liz Wheeler stuff, because this is kind of what he said. Hey, we're going to talk about this. So I started to dig a little bit deeper into Pam Bondi, and these things you should know about her. As an example, she was the Attorney General. Well, one, she's never held a job. Now it says public life and public life and private life. In other words, public work and private work. Returning to the private sector. She didn't really return to the private sector, so it's a little misleading. And I'm always skeptical when you get Kash Patels or Pam Bondis coming in here and they've never done anything in the private sector. It's always, it's always in the public sector. And then they're going to come in and they're going to slash things. No, they're not going to. So keep that in mind. And if she does some great things, now she's already started out pretty poorly, and I'd say put a lot on her. I just listened to Clint Russell, David Corbo, or Raven, and Top Lobster. They have a show called Dangerous Retards, and they were breaking down, talking a little bit about Pam Bondi and all the the influencers that went to the White House. Clint goes, look, and I did send a message to him in our group chat, Tower Gang, and I think he responded, but I didn't get a chance to look at it yet. But he's like, look, I forgive the influencers. They didn't, it wasn't really on them. They were there for a completely different reason, and they got bamboozled. And that's what they say. And I'm like, look, first of all, listen, and he did make a good point. He's like, look, now they're in a position of, if they speak, or maybe Top Lobster made this point, if they're in a position now and they call out Pam Bondi for duping them, because this was all on her, and evidently it didn't even go through the White House, this fake phase one of these binders. If they call her out, they're not going to get back into the White House. So it's going to be, they kind of have to go there. And I'm like, okay, well, and so he's like, I don't really blame them. And I'm like, no. Listen to Liz Wheeler's own interview with Glenn Beck. We played it here in full. And she said she's alternate media. They're there to replace the MSNBCs. Those are just the hacks. Okay, that's what they were there for. And then they get presented with this binder. And when they got told this binder was handed to them, that Bondi said, there's going to be nothing new in here. Okay, there's nothing new. Now you're under an embargo. Excuse me. Now I can't talk about it. And you're the alternate media. Do you just go along with this? And the doormat, and I don't want them to be alternate media and just go along with everything. We've had that. That's too much. Okay, why don't you be media, okay, if that's what you think you are. You're not, though. So I don't have any sympathy for them. Matter of fact, they said, Clint, listen to their own words. They think they are different. They don't think they're influencers. They think they are media, and that they're going along like they just, they're fine with being duped. And then they don't call out the Pam Bondis of the world. So anyway, I was like, let's take a look at Pam Bondi. Now, she was the Attorney General of Florida during the whole Epstein thing. And I'm going to go do a bigger breakdown, and I'm going to but this is just Wikipedia. So you can fact check a lot of these things here. Okay. So she's in there. Now there's some interesting, there's a fundraising controversy where she was the Attorney General of Florida, and they were going to sue Trump University. Florida was going to be part of this. Suddenly she gets a big donation from Trump. Now it went into the wrong, they were supposed to put it into a nonprofit, but it went to her campaign. He got fined for it. She never did. It seems a little, suspect. And I'm like, okay, whatever. This happens on everybody. But don't go in here being, I'm fully transparent, and then these things happen here. So there's fundraising controversies, other things, and then it says private life. Well, she's a lobbyist. Interesting here. We'll read this one. In 2019, after her final term as Florida Attorney General, Bondi was hired by Ballard Partners. And I'm just giving a peripheral over here. I will go into all these people much more detail at some point coming up. Maybe we'll do that on Mosley's show. Ballard Partner, a firm with close ties to Trump. And she began working as a registered agent as a lobbyist for the embassy of the state of Qatar. Now, Qatar's coming out there. And I DM'd Pete Quinones because I'm like, dude, everyone's coming out about Qatari influence, and I think is what they're trying to do. Whatever the chick is, something Sour Patch Lids. She's out there doing a bunch of these other. And I think what they're trying to do is like, oh, you're claiming all this influence from the state of Israel. What about Qatar, which is nothing? But it's all now. There's like Tucker has Qatari influence, and I'm like, well, you actually have this Qatari influence. And I sent this screenshot over here to Pete, and then he was posting it on some of his stuff as well. Let's take a look here. I'm sorry, I'll get it here, but I don't want to lose the chat. Okay. No, that's not the chat. Chat, where'd we go? Where'd we go? How come I can't find my chat screen? There we go. We'll go cam 2 with chat. Okay. Feed seems fine right now. Okay. Pam Bondi raided Tyler's house and shut off his live stream last night. She did. Here for a moment. I got a friend coming over. We're going to go around. Haven't been a good subscriber lately. Thank you. I appreciate it. Good perspective on the influencers. Hold them accountable immediately, or they become like the rest. Thank you, Liberty Dad, for coming in here. Yeah, good. I hope everything's going good with you guys out there. But you're exactly right. And I do want to hold them accountable because I want good media. And I even mentioned this at the time, which is I don't think the stelters and the news media that we dislike, they wouldn't have fallen for this the way that these people did. And it's embarrassing. But those people, Stelter and all, they would fall for that for Biden. And we mock them mercilessly. And you should do that for these people as well. They are influencers. They're not media. And until they comport themselves like such, disgraced. That's what I'm saying. Hold the feet to the fire. Be down the middle with everything else. I don't know. Is Steve Ducey like that? Perhaps he is. Okay. So anyway, let's keep going here. Lobbyist for the state of Qatar. She registered as a foreign agent for the embassy of the state of Qatar and as a partner in the lobbyist firm of Ballard Partners under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which she did. Okay. She left the Qatari project in 2019 to work in a temporary position for the White House for counsel for President First impeachment hearings. As a partner at Ballard Partners, she also became a lobbyist for KSCC, a company incorporated in Kuwait. The KSCC lobbying activity was, according to filed federal lobbying report, for, quote, issues related to potential global Magnitsky Act violations and imprisonment. Okay, so she's not out there. She's working for some sort of private company. She's doing this on the lobbyists for them. This is not in a prosecution for violations and imprisonment. This is likely to help them get out of this situation. The Global Magnitsky Act is a law which allows the U.S. government to sanction government officials implicated in human rights abuses or extreme corruption everywhere in the world. Bondi was lobbying for a Kuwait company to help with a case of claimed extortion. She had reported on her federal lobbying forums that she had been a member of 2017 presidential transition team and first Trump administration. Bondi worked as a lobbyist for Ballard Partners until confirmation as U.S. Attorney General. So, we're going to have to break down what these Qatari people and the Kuwaiti thing. So the Magnitsky Act, we could come across this. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. Magnitsky Act. It's formerly known as the Russia and Moldova Jackson-Vanik-Vilpil and Sergei Magnitsky Rule of Law Accountability Act 2012, a bipartisan bill passed by U.S. Congress and signed into law by President Barack Obama in December 2012, intending to punish Russian officials responsible for the death of Russian tax lawyer Sergei Magnitsky in a Moscow prison in 2009, and also to grant permanent normal trade relations status to Russia and Moldova by repealing the applicability of the Jackson-Vanik Amendment. The Global Magnitsky Act of 2016 within the NDAA 2017 authorizes the U.S. government to sanction those foreign government officials worldwide that are human rights offenders, freeze their assets, and ban them from entering the U.S. This should be done with Netanyahu. We just figured out how to actually ban, to come at them, Netanyahu. I think we just figured that out. Okay, so I'll look more into what this is all about, but it looks like to me that is not just against Russians, but it's Kuwaitis and whatnot, and here's the FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. I'll look into that a little bit more as well. So anyway, that's what you had there. Now, what's interesting also is there's a general policy. Let me see here. I think I could. There we go. Can you guys read that? I think so. So this was Attorney General February 5th, like her first day in office. Here's some things she did. Now, remember, she's registered as a foreign agent before. She's done lobbying on behalf of, looks like, criminals in Kuwait, government officials with extortion, human trafficking, whatnot. Something with Qatar, okay, lobbying for them for God knows what reason. We played yesterday her out of control sympathy with Israel, okay, and the wanton desire to also punish anybody who speaks out against Israel as being anti-Semitic. Matter of fact, she tried to equate simply saying things against Israel means you're pro-Hamas. It was pretty egregious, and she's not the smartest ball bearing of. See, I'm not either. She's not the smartest person out there, and I don't know that I necessarily want her in this kind of position, but maybe because I think people that are not smart in high positions of power are almost more dangerous than smart people, right? They clog their way along. But what did she do? There was multiple things she did on the first day, but there's certain things here which were a little bit more. Is this the one we wanted to see? Let's see. Okay, it's right here. Shifting resources in National Security Division to free resources to address more pressing priorities and end risks of further weaponization and abuses of prosecutorial discretion. The Foreign Influence Task Force shall be disbanded. Now, you could be libertarian all you want. You can want less government and want restrictions and regulations lifted. Some of the last thing, but you've got to do them in certain orders, right? We've talked about, at least I've mentioned this before about, and now, you know, the open borders people don't agree, but this is a Milton Friedman type of thing, which is you can't have undo open borders before, or, you know, really, and have open borders before you repeal all the incentives, all the welfare benefits, right? You repeal those benefits first, and then you can have maybe open borders. That there is a certain logical order you do certain things, right? It's just, there's always going to be a method that you want to go through. And this method, for me, my understanding is you don't want to necessarily disband foreign entanglement, or what do they call it here? Foreign influence task force disbandment. Maybe that's one of the last things you do, right? Or you're going to be subverted, right? So she disbands this task force. Recourse to criminal charges under the Foreign Agents Registration Act of 18 U.S.C. 951 shall be limited to instances of alleged conduct similar to more traditional espionage by foreign government actors. With respect to FARA and Section 951, the Counterintelligence and Export Control Section, including the FARA unit, shall focus on civil enforcement, regulatory initiatives, and public guidance. In other words, she disbanded the task force, the Foreign Influence Task Force, and then she cut the funding area and rediverted it away from the FARA, which is the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And then you're wondering, why is she talking about national security issues with releasing criminal? I mean, she literally said, I'm going to redact stuff that's under national security for Epstein. What? Like what? And I'm tying these all together, and maybe they're loose. Maybe this is conspiracy theories a bit loose, but you got to start to wonder, when you're bumbling it this bad, when you've been a foreign agent for some not so necessarily good people, and then you come into power and you loosen the restrictions for that, and then you're actually going to release the Epstein documents that are probably going to implicate a foreign nation, and you're also at the same time saying, but we're not going to do anything about that. It's a bit suspect, and you know, I'm here for it. I'm here to let that happen. Popcorn Power says, chat, are we all jealous of LPR? Let's get no. The jealousy is of the influencers and the Ian Carrolls. And now I'm going to get to the one. This is what happens when LPR doesn't stream all at his normal times. I cannot tune in his own audience against him if there is no no audience. Yes. Well done. Well done. Okay, so let's go on to the jealousy thing. Okay, and I started this last night, and it was Jason. There's Jeremy Boring, who runs the Daily Wire. Okay, and I think he's a subversive. But he goes after Jason Whitlock because there's a lot of things right now about Andrew Tate. Now, I just saw, and see if I can actually find it here. Probably not. But on Twitter, it was Hillary Crowder was taking on the, let me see if I can find this. Hillary Crowder. Okay, here it is. I found it. So we're going to be able to, let's see if we, there we go. I considered, okay, so she posts this picture. It's Hodge Twin saying he wasn't welcome in Florida, so we met up with him, with us in Las Vegas. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the whole thing there, but basically, maybe we'll do it this way. Nope, still not there. How about there? There you go. So there's the Hodge twin, the twin Hodge twins with Tate. And, you know, Tate can be kind of a scumbag. I get it. I'm not a big fan of him I think he's a degenerate. But, you know, let him talk or whatever. I don't really care. I'm not going to silence him. So she says that, she sees that, and by the way, they just had him on their podcast. Now, are you not allowed to have someone come on your podcast? Is that what we're not allowed to do? You can't platform people. So she's like, I consider not posting this because the Hodge twins have been to my house in past life on multiple occasions, and we have always had polite conversations. I'm not trying to pick a fight. Always a woman. This isn't a personal beef. They're always friendly to me, but the facts are the facts, and we have to be morally consistent. Their hosting Andrew Tate comes as zero surprise. Okay, there's literally nothing conservative about the Hodge twins, and there never has been. Their roots are in doing... Then, okay, I don't know that they call themselves conservative, okay? The roots are in doing comedy and telling personal anecdotes and some of the most sexually degenerate and depraved content. Well, I need sorry. Sorry if I warned you there. Sexually depraved content out there, and it's not hard to find. They later shifted their branding to being conservative twins. There was no come to Jesus moment. They just happened to vote for Republicans and shape shift to be less vulgar for the audience they are now appealing to. When people have been telling you who they are for years, believe them. Now, the response should be on this. They just had him on a podcast. It's not like they had kids with him. Because your ex-husband, now by the way, it's not like he turned degenerate. You probably don't think he's degenerate, Steven Crowder. You just think he's not a good dad or he's whatever. But he's no different than these guys. They came over. Matter of fact, you said, you were very right here. They weren't conservative, especially when they first met and I saw them on Crowder and I could see their arc changing from being somewhat liberal or even interested in politics. Steven was right up there with him. Steven's dressed like a woman before. He's acted like a homosexual, like every chance he gets. He's a degenerate too. But anyway, they all are. Okay. And so this is flabbergasting that I'm not defending Tate. I'm just saying, and then maybe you go like this, you go, okay, maybe Steven had a point. hey, bitch. I don't know if I would call her a bitch, but anyway, there you go. Okay. So this was Andrew Whitlock listened to a Tate interview about World War II, and we'll just play
And because Hitler was white nationalism is a bad thing because Hitler was white and a nationalist. And his argument is like, everybody else gets to be nationalist. But he doesn't say it, but he's basically insinuating, hey, black people get to run around and say black power. Black people get to run around and say, we need to do everything we can do to support Africa. Well, every other group with some color to them, or if they're Israel, they all get to be nationalists. But white people around the globe, if they're nationalists, everyone gets to say, oh, you're just like Adolf Hitler. You're going to put us in ovens. You're white supremacists. It's a fair question that many young white men and some old white men, they want answered. And when they look around and say, well, who with a platform is willing to say these things? People will beat around the bush, but no one will say these things directly. Andrew Tate just said these things somewhat directly. And that's his value. That's why people want to defend him and want to overlook his sexual immorality, his sexual crimes, the fact that he's a pathological liar, the fact that he's not a...
Okay, I want to emphasize this. And by the way, Popcorn Power says, speaking of which, because why is Hillary still using the last name Crowder if they are getting divorced? A normal person would just... would get their old name back. Does she prefer to keep the associated reputation? Okay, I want to talk about that, and I'll come back to Jason Whitlock's commentary here. Excuse me. In case you didn't know, Popcorn Power, appreciate you being here. I do family law. So this is a common issue and, of like restoring your name. However, there's a valid reason for keeping this. Now, I have an ex-wife. She has my last name still, okay? And the reason for her, which I think is completely valid and a good reason, morally or socially, is for continuity of the children, okay? So you have children, they have children together. Those children have the same name as their mother and they have the same name as their father. Now they're split and maybe she doesn't want anything to do with them, but those kids are a bind that ties, and it is important, I think, for them to not have, it used to be more stigmatized, right? You'd have different names and the kids and the parents and whatnot. But I think it's important to continue it. Now, if she gets remarried, then there you go. And at that point, maybe the kids would be older. But I don't know if that's her reasoning. I see that a lot of times with the women. They're like, no, I want it to be the same as my children. And I'm like, kudos. I'm there for you. And sometimes I have the husbands. They're like, I don't want that bitch to keep my name. And I'm like, it's not on you. It's not your decision to do. Who wants to change their legal docs ID? Yeah, well, that is a problem. But just adopted my wife's two kids. And so they're changing their name. and it takes like 8 months for the birth certificate and everything, the judgment to come back. At a point, then they can do it, and it's going to be a pain. But 30 years down the road, they're going to want my name over this. Okay, so Jason Whitlock, just to tell you this, he's talking about good questions to ask, right? Which is questions of, and by the way, you're going to have Jeremy Boring. If you talk about almost anything else, right? It's like reverse racism, right? Can white people be discriminated against? That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't. It's all fine and dandy because you want equality out there until you talk about the wrong type of equality, which is certain representation, certain minority group with a concentration in the Middle East, Israel. Now you can't do that, or you're going to be name calling, right? It's going to be the most awful thing. And this is similar to that, which is what Jason Whitlock is mentioning here. He's like, take a side. This guy's a degenerate. He's morally corrupt. He's got a lot of problems, and I'll back it up so you can hear him emphasize those problem things. But he's like, but you have to understand why people are listening to him. And it's so true. I mean, I'm not a fan at all of Tate, and I kind of roll my eyes, especially when Candace Owens seems to like him. But there are certain things that some people say. Milo was one up in his heyday, homosexual, flamboyant, but yet, the way he talks, the conservatives all love him because there's certain things he says it with flair, literally, and he says it sensible, right? And he has a way of doing that. So, the smart, articulate, clean black man type of thing as well. So you've got that. So my point is, people with defects all over the place. And I've always said, I get that. How about we find someone who says a similar thing that's not a fucking degenerate? Let's try that. How about that? Because that's out there, but you have to understand why those people are saying what they're saying. So let's say it once more time. He talks about him. Hey, he's saying some things. He's making some good points. People are listening to him, even though
things somewhat directly, and that's his value. That's why people want to defend him and want to overlook his sexual immorality, his sexual crimes, the fact that he's a pathological liar, the fact that he's not a Christian, the fact that he's actually a force for evil. People are willing to overlook that because he will defend white nationalism.
Now, I would say he called him a criminal, sexual criminal, a pathological liar, a force for evil because he's not a Christian. He's a Muslim, I believe. All completely true. And by the way, you can make those comparisons, which I'm sure Jeremy Boring was perfectly fine making with Donald Trump, right? No one out there thinks that if you're going to have him, and now people might think, he would be a great father, or look at his kids. Okay, but he's somewhat of a degenerate himself. I mean, he said he could shoot people on Fifth Avenue, and you would still vote for him. Very true. I actually voted for Trump this last time for Ross Ulbricht. And some of the winning that's happening. But you have to understand, right, that Jeremy Boring, and I say that because Jeremy Boring takes this guy on. Okay, so there's him. Now, Jeremy Boring, let's see, this one says, okay, so then he says that here. This is a lot of going back and forth. Okay, so then Ben Shapiro comes out and does this whole thing about Chauvin, and because it's kind of his new grift. And so Jason Whitlock says, what is going on here? There seems out of nowhere from the Daily Wire, given the fact it's separated from Candace Owens. If Trump took on this right now, it would sabotage and overshadow other agendas. I believe Chauvin was wrongly convicted, but the timing of this campaign seems out of place. And then Jeremy Boring says, if Ben Shapiro cured cancer, Jason Whitlock would find something in it to bitch about. Now, I mean, that is so out of. I mean, I'm sorry. You can like Jason Whitlock or not. I don't have a problem with him. I think he took on Adam of PDB podcast. Just ruthlessly destroyed this guy. Now he's had some issues with Michael Malice went after him and whatever. I think he's a decent dude. I've liked him when he did sports stuff. He does this. There's going to be some differences. I think he's a good Christian, and for the most part, he's not insensitive. He's got some good ideas, right? And going after the Jeremy Borings and the Daily Wires of this world is spot on. Now, Jason Whitlock's point here is more along the lines of, I agree, But it seems weird that this timing right now, and I don't think it would be best strategically to do this. So then, Jeremy Boring says this stupid stuff. And so Whitlock comes back, and I'm sorry I'm following this long here, but it's all in you'll see why. Seems like an overreaction. Seems like something a LeBron fan would say about me or Stephen A. Smith. Someone refresh my memory. How often do I discuss Shapiro? This seems really overcooked. I'm asking legit questions, and Jeremy is lobbying personal attacks. Weird. I'm not allowed to question. And then Jeremy comes back. You're allowed to do whatever you want, which typically involves being a dick towards us any chance you get. Just asking questions is a cowardly grift. If you want to make an accusation, be a man and make it. I'm sorry. I'm so sick of I'm just denigrating that I'm asking questions, because that is important to do. Okay. I think it's called the Socratic method, right? Is asking questions is legitimately a way. That's what we do in law school. It's kind of the Socratic method, which is you ask questions and ask questions and ask questions. That's how they do it. You got a brief you're supposed to do for class. You've read this thing, and then they just start asking questions. And it's questioning back and forth, right, and answering. And that's the whole process. So just asking questions. Now you can couch that in some things, right? Sometimes it's like some of the questions, like as an example, Jay Dyer went and did a debate against the Misfit Patriot. And I don't know a lot about this, but I was very interested in the topic because they were going to basically discuss the Christian right, or the Christian, as the Misfit Patriot guy that wears eyeshadow, his interpretation that there was a duty for Christians to support Israel, and Jay was going to do. Now, it devolved into immediately, because then the Misfit guy is on there and he's like, well, I don't really know this topic. And then I'm like, okay, so what are you doing here? But then I wanted to know the answers. I wanted to hear Jay talk, and then Jay terminated him, kicked him out, and it never happened. And I'm like, I still need knowledge. I still need to know what's going on here. Help me, help you. Who wants to change it? Okay, we talked about it. I thought that concentrating helped you to solve. I thought that concentrating helped you to solve difficult problems. Could be. People listen to Tate because the conservative right has failed to provide moral leaders who will boldly speak boldly to them. Exactly. Thank you, DL. Perfectly said. And that's what I'm saying. Find someone else who can do it. Okay. Oh my God. Hi, Tyler. What's up, JC? Welcome into the chat here. Okay. So let's keep going. So, Jeremy Boring says that kind of crap. And let's see. Do I have any more of that one? I do not. Okay. Let's see if I have this one. I thought I had another Jeremy Boring. Okay, here's another Jeremy Boring one. This is what he said on March 6th. Yesterday was a terrible day for American Jews. The embrace by so many prominent voices of demented, conspiratorial, anti-Jewish voices is one of the saddest, most alarming events in my lifetime. In his lifetime, okay? We had Vietnam, we've had a lot of things, but bad words, anti-Jewish voices, that's the most alarming event in his lifetime. We've had a lot. I don't know how old you are. Let's say you're 60. Okay. 60, goes back to the 1960s. Okay. There's been some bad things that have happened. I don't know. JFK, RFK getting killed, President Reagan getting shot. Maybe that's good or bad. A lot of people getting slaughtered over in the Soviet Union, in China. Okay. There's a lot of things that have, but bad voices, bad anti-Jewish voices is one of the saddest, most alarming events in my lifetime. This way lies madness, and worse than madness. Okay. Do not let the times cost you your soul. Audience capture and unchecked tribalism are tools of the devil. Thank you. Right. What is this all about? He's talking about tribalism, going along with what everything has to say, what your tribe has to say, which can be talked about in Jewish voices, or specifically defending Israel, or always being the victim, right? Now the downtrodden, you can't say these things about, blacks for whatever reason, or any other, minority group, or the Jews. And if you do, you're going to be, excommunicated, or it's going to be, but it's tribalism. It's identity politics at its worst. Right? I don't give a shit about all this. So stop preaching to everyone that this is the most saddest day. Paranoia and revisionism are too, even if they really are out to get you. Heck, even a righteous cause can lead us to evil if we don't guard our hearts in the quest. Okay, exactly. A righteous cause, as in, reacting to October 7th, right? There was an evil that happened, so October 7th happens, and then you didn't guard yourself. Matter of fact, you guys, and it's probably you too, Jeremy Boring, I know Ben Shapiro did, basically glass everything in Gaza, burn it all down, and that didn't guard yourself, and it led your hearts to a quest, an evil quest. The wicked often prosper. Thank you. And the temptation to prosper often tempts us to join them. But only God offers the richness of salvation. And he already became for us the only Jewish scapegoat for our... it's nonsensical, honestly. Okay, what else? What did Seth Dillon say here? Okay, this is also, so I found this on Jeremy Boring's timeline. Okay, he quote tweeted this, actually, or just quote tweet, yeah, reposted, I guess. There are overwhelming facts, evidence, and testimony for the DOJ's anti-Semitism investigation into the University of California, according to, okay, so this chick does her latest here. So it's a whole thing about shutting down anti-Zionism, and I'm going to go into this at some point. I'm going to read this article, which I've skimmed over it, but that you can understand. I talked about this last night with Pam Bondi, which is there's bad words being said on campus. Now, there are protests, and some of these protests are blocking sidewalks. And okay, you can't do that. It's like what we have in California, just in general, which are homeless people on the sidewalk, and a property owner is trying to come out and clear it, and they won't let you do it. You can't obstruct, you can't do certain things. You got to get permits for protests and whatnot. Yeah, do that. But the simple fact that they are doing that is not violence, okay? And that's what the DOJ, and that's what this Cassie Akiva is going on about. However, just like right next to, or a few quote tweets down below, he has Seth Dillon here talking about the First Amendment lawsuits against Attorney General Rob Bonta. We had sued California over this law too, but our case was dismissed. Thankfully, X is standing in the Ninth Circuit, just ruled in our favor. Freedom doesn't defend itself. You have to fight for it. Thank you, So, the Babylon Bee had to sue because they were being discriminated against on speech grounds, okay? Jeremy Boring retweets that. But then the exact opposite, where he retweets something else where free speech is what he's against. It doesn't make sense unless you have identity politics, and that is a full deal. So maybe we'll break down that. LPR did nothing wrong. That's right. The only way to win against Andrew Tate is to beat him at his own game. LPR needs to start his own OnlyFans network and stock his house with a harem. I know LPR can lover boy his way into success. X has made me reconsider the high verbal IQ notion. Laney, way to come in here. Ian Carroll on JR is worse than 9/11. Let's talk about that real quick. I did a breakdown. I listened to some of it. I did not thoroughly enjoy it. Okay. He didn't blow me away, but he impressed me in a few aspects, which is he knows his place. His place is a generalist, as he says. It is getting together the information that other people have already done. And I just saw this on another jealousy thread. A guy had to mute because he's all upset about Ian Carroll, basically coming to prominence. But Ian Carroll cites his sources all the time. Okay, that's what I like. If he gets something out there and he uses Whitney Webb as a great example, and he just goes over and over, but he's talking about a book and he's showing a book that he's using and then shows the other stuff, he references it, okay? And so what is he doing? He's doing what we're doing. A lot of this content, I'm not creating. I'm just talking about it. I'm giving it to the masses. And then it's out for you for there to do it. There are people who take a lot of this stuff and then they act it like it's their own, and they've stolen the work of someone else. I'm not a fan of that, but I'm also not against intellectual property laws. I am against. So I don't really give a shit about that. But he's not doing that. And even so, you can read a book and then talk about it. But my point on Ian Carroll is he does a lot of this compiling of other people's work and disseminates it out there in a way that's interesting. And that was what was important, I think, about him going on Rogan, which is he's one of these voices, and there's a lot that's being said that I don't know would normally be out there. So anyway, dang, I was hoping some of y'all would participate. Not for $20. When does when does gay Operation Dinosaur go down? I don't know what you guys are even talking about. Okay, so I think that's really what I wanted to go over. Jeremy Boring, So I'm going to do a few things here. I'm going to look into. I got new thing I'm going to work on. Pam Bondi. I'm going to break down a lot of these little things I just talked about. So if you didn't see it, go check that out again. I'm also going to work through these 2 different lawsuits here that were referenced by Jeremy Boring because I think they're interesting. So the University of California anti-Semitism issue, and then also whatever Seth Dillon, who's just, by the way, atrocious. Let's see, I had written something here because he was coming after Tate. So I just you can go after Tate, and I'm like, wait, isn't that anti-black? I thought you can't do that. You can't talk about marginal stuff, people like that. I don't know if you guys watch cycling. You don't. There's a big race today. It's in Italy. It's called Strada Bianca. It's on these. A lot of it's on. I'll just show you right here. This is a little glimpse. This guy right here, he's the world champion. He ended up winning it. Tadej Pogačar is his name. Destroyed everybody. It's on a lot of these dirt roads. This dude is amazing. He's the most amazing cyclist out there. He's from Slovenia. He crashed hard today and then got back up, caught the front guys, and then ended up winning. So pretty cool. All right. Thanks everybody for coming in. That's, what is it? It's almost 1:30. I got to go pick up my wife. We have a dog. I think I told you about this. My daughter found this dog. It's an older dog. We gave it a lot of help, took it to the vet, did some stuff, packed its ears with like gel because there were some problems, and then going to pull that out this next week. But this dog's deaf. The doctor's like, the stuff in her ears aside, this dog's deaf. And it is fascinating to see a dog. It's a pretty big dog. I'd say about 80 pounds. It's a retriever. It's fascinating to see a house of, when you're used to, we have 3 dogs other than that. So there's 4 dogs. Then we have a cat. And the cat walks around, gets along with the dogs as well, but not the new one. It's trying to figure out that a little, entanglement. And this dog has no hearing. So she's sleeping, and usually you walk in and the dogs kind of wake up. No, you've got to literally go up and like pet her, and then she freaks out because it's someone in her face. She doesn't hear stuff. It's humorous, and she's a wonderful dog. Anyway, rally cycling? Hey, no. Bicycling. All right, everybody. Thank you once again. Am I going to do one tomorrow? I don't know. It's Sunday. Maybe tonight. I don't know. I love doing these shows, and I hate when I have one that screws up. So I apologize for yesterday. Thanks everybody for coming into the chat. We will see you tomorrow. So long. Or not tomorrow. I don't know when I'll see you next. I'll see you again. Bye.
With 6 lamb burgers, 4 shish kebabs, a side order of couscous, and 2 milk. No, how much?
$6.75.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming, or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. Why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.